Hi, Euanem. Nice to meet you here in Poland. Could you please tell us something about yourself and your experience?
About myself, okay. I was a musician originally, and in fact, this venue is making me feel quite at home. But I then worked for the BBC for 21 years. The last 7 of those, we put forums and bulletin boards and blogs inside the organisation. And then 7 years ago, I left, and I've spent that 7 years working around the world, helping other organisations try to do the same thing.
Okay, was it the reason you wrote the book? Organizations don't tweet, people do. Could you tell me what is the, for whom you wrote this book? Who is the target audience?
It was mostly for people working in business and mostly managers. So people who are watching their staff using these tools and wondering what it's about and whether they should get involved or not. I mean, my background is inside organizations rather than in marketing. But in fact, a lot of the stories in the book have become interesting to people in marketing as well.
Could you tell us something more about your BBC experience? How was it to introduce such a big organization to social media?
Well, it's funny actually, because most of my time at the BBC was spent in the World Service, where I actually used to put out broadcasts in Polish. And one of the things about the World Service was we had very different people from very different cultures. And so I was used to people just connecting with each other and talking to each other.
So it was like social media before social media?
Exactly that.
Okay.
And the rest of the organisation was very siloed and very vertical, and people wouldn't talk to each other. So I thought, when we saw these tools emerging on the internet, why don't we bring them inside and help people to break down some of those barriers? And we grew it by word of mouth, virally. I didn't mandate its use in any sense, and ended up with 25,000 staff using the forum.
Do you think that the social media adoption by organization can be a competitive advantage on the market?
The more big organizations I work with, I am staggered that they are able to work at all without it, frankly, because most organizations end up very bureaucratic. There are all sorts of time-intensive, labor-intensive processes that don't achieve an awful lot. And as we all see on the internet, just being able to connect, understand what each other's doing, share information instantly, just makes you so much more efficient. So I'm amazed that more people aren't adopting this more quickly. I know why, because it's all about power and status and comfort levels with the tools, but I think in the long run most organizations will eventually adopt it.
Okay, so social media is, the cure for bureaucracy. I think we should adopt it here in Poland more, in the government, especially in the government.
And what was your biggest challenge when you were working with the big organizations?
Risk aversion. They see it as a dangerous, risky thing to do. There's a sense of being very busy. So the time, people who spend their lives writing 40-page reports that nobody ever reads will question using a tool like Twitter, but we know that you can do things really quickly in these tools. So I guess risk and time.
And convincing CEOs or
yeah,
maybe sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that whole hierarchical, who are you to have an opinion type of attitude, which varies. I mean, some organizations are more like that than others. And of course, many of them are being placed under pressure because they are, through their marketing activities, trying to be 2.0 outside the firewall, and they're not even 1.0 inside it. So they have these fast-moving conversations, and then somebody who's trying to respond has to wait 4 days for 14 people to sign off their blog post. And that's pressuring some of them into doing this faster.
And do you think that social media is for any type of organization, or is there some type of that it's just don't fit?
Well, I've worked with military organizations, financial organizations, not-for-profits, charities, out-and-out commercial organizations. I haven't found one yet. Some find it harder than others, and clearly the financial world with all its regulations is going to find some of this more challenging than others. But no, I think scale. Once you're above 1,000 people, it's just a no-brainer. This makes sense for you.
I think that's interesting. So thank you very much, Euanem, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope today we'll have a great time at Czwartek Social Media. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers.